In Pennsylvania's Trump country, where he won 75% of the vote, farmers are finding out what mass deportation actually means. This is John Painter. He voted for Trump 3 times. He runs an organic dairy farm. He hired a Mexican couple who worked for him for 2 years. Great workers, paid taxes. Then the husband got pulled over in New York while visiting family, and eventually he was deported, and his wife followed him. Painter lost his workforce. Now he is scrambling to find new help. Now meet Tim Wood. He is another Trump voter and a dairy farmer. Thanks to Trump's mass deportation, he now cannot find consistent workers. The stress is literally giving him a heart condition. His doctor asked about his biggest stressor, and his answer was, if I'm going to have workers tomorrow. He's had to sell 100 head of cattle because he has no one to help him care for them. The U.S. agricultural workforce fell by 155,000 workers. That's about 7% between March and July. But one farmer said, people don't understand, if we don't get more labor, our crops don't get picked. Now, we don't know if these farmers were anti-immigrant before, but they are definitely not now. Here's Painter talking about his now deported employee. I understand that he was here illegally, but I also understand that he's human. They want the American dream, and they want to work. He now admits that he's, quote, very disappointed in Trump's immigration policy this term. But here's the thing. Trump literally campaigned on mass deportation. This is not a surprise policy twist. I guess a lot of people just don't understand what policies mean until they affect their own lives. Maybe that's a lesson for all of us to think more deeply about what and who we're voting for. Because it turns out when the leopard comes for your face, it doesn't care whose flag is hanging on your wall.
Wow. From what this man has just said now, it is obvious. It is obvious that the rural America, the rural state where you have mostly Republican voters, are the worst hit. You know why? Because they never envisage or see that Trump's agenda is going to affect them. Even though Trump was campaigning, he was so unapologetic about it. First, about mass deportation, about grocery prices, even though people said it's going to be low, right? But he emphasized that it's going to cut it down. Now, has it been cut down? That's the question. But mass deportation, he was not joking about it. He was speaking it obviously and loudly as possible. And number 2, he also speak about it's going to increase tariff during this campaign. These are the things that Trump was speaking about. But the rural areas where you have mostly MAGA states, they voted, the farmers, it is obvious that all the farmers voted against themselves, knowing fully well that it's going to deport their staff. It's going to increase the tariff of the farm produce, and they are the one that is sending out products to other countries, China, Mexico. But now, they are the worst hit, and they are crying out, and they are saying they regret. What is it that they regret? Is it that Trump didn't tell them before he did all of that? No, you guys were told. But guys, let me not just go, let me not say more than I've said already, because I have a lot of videos to show you guys, and you're going to love this video, because after you watch, I want the conversation to begin. Let's begin to talk about what you feel, your views, your perception about rural MAGAs and the rural farmers that voted for Donald Trump. I'll be right back. Don't go nowhere. Credits in this video are given to the original creator. Thank you guys. Don't go nowhere.
These rural towns, mostly in red states, are really about to be in the find out. First, let me tell you what the Trump administration did with this big, beautiful bill that they think is pretty slick. You see, most of these things with Medicaid cuts aren't going to go into effect until 3.5 years down the line. When is that? When Donald Trump is no longer president. You see, he doesn't want to be able to take credit. He doesn't want anyone to blame him for hospitals closing and people losing their Medicaid. So he delayed everything until he's out of office. And so what he gets to do with this is he gets to say that, oh, all of the things that are happening to these hospitals and with Medicaid and everything, that's all Joe Biden's fault. because my stuff doesn't kick in for 3 years. Then when it were to kick in, if it is to kick in, it's going to get worse. So for the most part, the next president, probably a Democrat, is going to have to come in and overturn all the things that he did just so people don't lose their Medicaid and a lot of these hospitals don't close up. But unfortunately, many of these hospitals are anticipating what's to come, and they're already planning that they're going to have to close up in the next 3 to 7 years. But you have J.D. Vance out there, of course, blaming Joe Biden for everything that's going on right now during the Trump administration, and out here saying that they put in provisions and they put in fail-safes so that rural hospitals won't have to close. Meanwhile, rural hospitals are planning on closing. So let's listen to J.D. Vance with this bullshit talking about they're saving rural hospitals when we know that's not the truth. First of all, let me point out, did you notice when he was saying all the bullshit, all the stuff none of these people have ever heard of? He got no applause at all. So then he decided to go to the Trump card. He went to the card, the ace of spades, which is the racism. He's like, nobody's cheering when I'm talking about healthcare and Medicaid and rural hospitals. You know what? Illegal aliens need to get the hell out of here. We want them out of here. We're getting the Mexican people out of here. And then all of a sudden the racists are like, yeah, because they know that. They understand the racism. That's the part they love the most about Donald Trump. You see, policy means nothing to them. They don't care that their gas prices and grocery prices are still going up. They don't care about that. They care that, one, they think they're owning the libs, and two, the racism. They like the fact that J.D. Vance and Donald Trump are as racist as they are. And let me point something else out. He's talking about all the problems during the Biden administration. You know what? If you Google rural hospital closures during Biden's administration, you don't find a bunch of articles about that. But during the Trump administration, you find a bunch of articles about rural hospitals that are anticipating having to close, and it is because of the cuts to Medicaid in the big beautiful bill. That is the only reason. That's the only reason they cite when they talk about their rural hospitals closing. Don't believe me? Here's a video of a news station talking about a hospital closing in their area because of all the cuts to Medicaid. The fact that this administration is trying to claim that this isn't happening when we could easily access the information that proves it's happening right now is fucking crazy. But this is how dumb they know the MAGAs are. And if that's not enough for you, here's another article about 9 rural hospitals in Illinois that are also at risk of being closed, along with a video that talks about how the big beautiful bill is cutting millions of people off of their Medicaid.
I don't care. I don't fucking care. All these videos on this app about how in 3 weeks the grocery stores are going to be empty, good. Fucking let that fucking play out. Okay? Take some precautions, but let that shit play out. Farmers on this app boo-hooing because they're losing their farms, fuck all the way off. What did you think was going to happen? Joe Biden bailed you out, then you turned around and voted for Trump. So yeah, I'm glad that all your government grants and bailouts and farmer welfare got taken away from you. And I hope to God a Democrat buys your land and is profitable. Truckers. Oh my God, the amount of truckers on my algorithm right now boo-hooing that they don't have any loads, which by the way, at first is kind of funny. But what? 90% of you voted for this. What the fuck did you think was going to happen when he tariffed the whole world and there was going to be no product to move around the country? Hello? Oh my God. Oh my God. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm scared to death of the fucking shitstorm that we are all about to fucking walk through. And the longevity of those empty shelves fucking keeps me up at night. But the only thing that keeps me going is that any day it could happen.
Mexico and China are the 2 biggest rice buyers for the United. They buy more rice off of us than anyone. And when they stop buying rice, we have nowhere to go with the rice. It won't be a trickle-down effect. It will be like flushing a toilet if the ag industry collapses. Totally 100% dependent on the Lord Jesus Christ. I surrender it to Him.
No, you simple fuck. If you were leaving it in the Lord's hands, you wouldn't be asking for a handout. You literally voted to not feed the hungry. Jesus doesn't fuck with you. But before we go any further, I must address the MAGA idiot in the room. Katrina, yes, I do believe that food grows on trees. Say the illustrious apple, for one. I am very concerned. Katrina, the brilliant horticulturist, made this comment because I said, does money grow on trees? In response to the Nebraska farmers who are begging for a check. The American taxpayers bailed them out the last time that freak was in office, and we don't want to do it again. They should have planned better. They should find those bootstraps and pull them real hard. And how are the Americans going to eat? These are cash crops we're talking about. Corn, soybeans will be fine. This is food that is exported out of the United States. They said they wanted U.S. aid gone, right? Where the fuck do their excess crops go? To feed the hungry via U.S. aid. They made themselves redundant. They are so stupid. This is what being a hateful fuck does. They need to learn a lesson. They can't get bailed out every time they fuck up. Maybe farming just isn't for you. If you can't survive without government assistance, like the welfare queens that you are, perhaps this is the wrong line of work for you.
I've been a proud rural American my entire life. But the truth is, in rural America, poverty is higher, wages are lower, and jobs are far and few between. And here's another cold hard fact. Beginning with the New Deal, continuing through to the Great Society, and ending just recently with the president's infrastructure bill, the Democrats in both rural and urban America have fought to provide a social safety net that's much needed in rural America while offering targeted incentives to help rural America grow. And our question is, when are conservatives in rural America going to join us in the fight? Hi guys, my name's Will, your favorite rural campaign and elections expert, and let's talk about it. Here are some hard facts we have to come to terms with in rural America. Nearly 75% of the poor living in rural America come from southern Republican states. Both poverty and our dependence on the social safety net is higher in rural America than it is in our cities and suburbs. In every section of America, that rule also applies. In the Northeast, in the Southeast, in the Midwest, in the West, and in the Southwest, the poverty rate is higher in rural America than it is in our cities. And we draw more from the social safety net than our friends and neighbors in the cities do. In the last week, Donald Trump's administration placed a freeze on federal grants. Now, it's no secret at this point that they don't understand how government works. So it only makes sense that they wouldn't understand what the impacts of this freeze would be on rural America. And the impacts would have been devastating. That is, if the deep state wouldn't have stepped in to stop these freezes in the form of a federal judge who ruled today that these freezes were unconstitutional and that they couldn't take place until after February 2nd. In contrast, as the administration has been asked to explain what the impacts of these cuts will be, they are like a cow looking at a new gate, with no answers being provided and a scuttlebutt of different solutions being put in place. And let's be clear, this funding impacts multiple different services in rural America, including food services and education and key healthcare and other critical services that rural Americans rely on to carry out the functions of their everyday lives. What are some of the other programs that would be cut if these programs are put in place? If a federal judge hadn't stepped in? Listen up, rural America. Emergency grain storage for farmers. And most importantly, even the Head Start program in rural areas could be canceled. That's a major program that rural families use to provide early education for their children. And in truth, it provides much needed daycare for families that have to work full time, even though they own a farm. It would also lead to cuts, and you're not going to believe it, cancer programs and programs designed to provide caskets for veterans in rural areas who have no living family members to claim them when they pass away. It's disgusting, it's wrong, and it's only the Democrats that are pushing back against it. Now, I get it that multiple elected Republican officials are trying to say once again that the worst won't happen, just like they did when Trump placed his tariffs on China and the American row crop industry almost folded. But one thing I know about my fellow rural Americans, they aren't dumb. They have common sense. Ask yourself, why did the Head Start website go down on Tuesday? Ask yourself, why did multiple websites go down for multiple government organizations this week, including Medicare? Why did they go down? Could it be because the federal government was planning on bringing some of these programs down in the long haul? So they had a plan in place to bring the websites down as well? Just a conjecture on my part, but I think it's a fair one. Rural America, it's time to wake up and smell the coffee. And I've had to use this rural term many times in the last few weeks. Don't let Donald Trump piss down your leg and tell you that it's raining. If he increases his tariffs on China, it's going to lead to an even more catastrophic trade war with China, impacting row crops in the United States, to the extent that as much as 80% of the corn in this country may not be purchased, and over 30 billion metric tons of soybeans could go to waste. If he places his tariffs on Canada and Mexico, they've both agreed to force a targeted tariff approach on rural America and red states. Tariffs that would be catastrophic for agricultural products produced in red states. And finally, if the food programs and education programs that are targeted and designed specifically for rural America go away because of cuts in government funding, that would be catastrophic not only to the adults that live in rural America, but to the children and elderly people as well. These are all things we have to consider moving forward. And it's time for us to place the interests of our fellow rural Americans at the top of the list. Forget about the ultra rich. Forget about trickle down. Forget about the crumbs under the table while the wealthy eat steak at the table above. My name's Will. That's the news from the back 40. I hope you have a great day.
Wow. Arkansas farmers are complaining bitterly. Nebraska are complaining. Ohio are complaining. Florida. All these farmers have suddenly realized they are woke now. But they wake up at the wrong time because the deed has been done. And now rural America, rural farmers are the worst hit of all that is happening. They are like, we regret this. I mean, from the videos of what you see, a farmer was saying, I support Trump. I believe in his agenda. And all of that, his workers have gone. And now, one of the doctor asked him that, what is your stress? What is the thing that is bothering your heart? And he said that I can get workers that can work for me. So now he has suddenly realized that he voted against his own interest, is sick in the hospital, having blood pressure and all of that. And what caused it? His decision to vote for Donald Trump, because Democrats was giving you funds, were giving you aid for your farm produce, for your farm cultivation. There's a farmer's plan. There's a program for farmers to give them aids and grants so that they can effectively plant. But you guys said, no, you are not okay with that. Knowing fully well that Trump said it's going to increase tariff, it's going to deport a lot of migrants. You guys add all of that. And I don't know what you guys are thinking. Okay, when he said it's going to deport migrants, what are these rural farmers? What were they thinking of? I'm asking. Guys, can you just answer me at the comment section? Let me know, because it looks like I'm very sure they're not dumb, because he said he's going to deport them. And you guys still went ahead and vote for him against your own interest, against your well-being, against your funding, against your progress, against your prosperity. And you guys are now regretting you're sick on the bed. You are saying all of that because of who? Because of yourself. You voted against yourself. And now your staff, your workers have gone. Tariff has increased. China is saying, no, we're not going to buy stuff from you anymore. We can't afford to buy. Mexico, the same thing. China has got a new partner, a new country that will be supplying them, which is Brazil. And Mexico, the same thing. They are looking for alternatives, and they're saying they're not going to work with American farmers anymore. Now the rural farmers are complaining. They are sick. They are regretting. And one of them said, I regret this administration's plans and tariff increment. I regret it. When you're ready, down and low, who's for this? Guys, let me know what your comment is at the comment section. Let the conversation begin now. It's time to air your opinion. Let's talk about this, because it is nobody's fault other than the farmers that never thought about their interests. They never thought about what is at stake for them. They went ahead and voted for Republican. Now you've got yourself to blame, because this was your decision. Rural farmers are crying bitterly. They are bankrupt, they are broke, they are down, they are devastated. and the list is endless. But guys, what do you think about this? Let the conversation begin. I want you to know that if today is your first time of watching my video, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. You are going to love update that I share here, and turn on the notification button so you can get updated whenever I post any video. You don't want to miss any video. I post videos every day for your information and education. Thank you guys for watching to this moment. Until I come your way again. Bye-bye.